Okay, we're back. Welcome to our FPL portion of the show where we try to figure out what's going to happen in Game Week 20. Game Week 19 is currently underway. We're just trying to prepare you for Game Week 20, which is going to come midweek. So next week, Tuesday, don't be surprised when all of a sudden you're seeing Premier League matches happening and you haven't done any transfers. We warned you. You were warned. This is your first warning. So, gents, so far we're halfway through Game Week 19. The Hell Game Week, how's that going for you guys? Sai, how's it going?
Oh, fantasy football. The reason I realized that there are antidepressants. It's going okay. It could be better. But having said that, there's nothing worse than planning something and realizing midway through it that you can't actually execute it. Like playing your wild card and then finding out that you can't triple captain at the same time. Anyway, you live and you learn. And the other lesson I learned is don't play fantasy football. But anyway, we're in this and we've got to keep going. So, the game week's actually not been terrible, but I've not done the things I'd hoped to.
So I'm living for the FPL Cup. I'm trying to beat the guy who's always paired up against me. I hope I don't come against any of you guys. But so far so good. My FPL Cup seems to be going a little bit well, and I think the guy I'm against is prepared for only one set of games. The second set of games, I don't think he kind of figured that there are people who could play with two.
He didn't watch Cheap Seats.
No, he didn't. Because like when I looked at my squad, but it's like Dean was talking about how he needed all his 11 to be at least playing 2 games. All 8 of my 11 are playing at least 2 games. I took a gamble with Cavani, yet to pay off, but I'm hoping it does over the next couple of days with some sort of a goal or assist or something. But that's all for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to help me out with. Dean, how's your game week going?
All I can say is 2 words: John Stones. He was the best person I've put in my team. 21 points, 2 goals, clean sheet. 21 points from the guy, honestly. And it was the last minute transfer I did. I played my wild card. I was like, damn, I need to get a City defender. I had Cancelo in there the whole time, got rid of him, put in Stones and left money in the bank. And it worked out perfectly.
And why weren't you part of the 400 people who triple captained it?
You see, you can get lucky, but you can't get that lucky.
That's not lucky. Somebody has put some money. I'm going to start asking the bookies what the heck's going on. Who has paid Stones to become the new Ronaldo?
But we'll see. There's still a lot of interesting games. We've still got City, Villa, United, Fulham. Villa haven't even played. They've got City and then Newcastle. So it's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of chops and changes that are going to come to a lot of leagues, hopefully.
Well, of all the guys
his week was so bad he left.
But let's carry on though, because AB, did you have a good week?
AB?
Not really.
No.
The only thing that I captained Cancelo, so there you go.
Captained Cancelo. Oh,
yeah,
welcome.
It was between Edison and Cancelo. Hey, pause there.
Sorry, guys, I just had a situation. Wait, you captained Cancelo?
Yeah.
Why?
That's a heck of a call.
Because City don't concede goals anymore. I'm seeing the light with Pep. Pep is no longer a bald fraud. He's like Dandy.
That's the one question I wanted to find out from you guys. This thing of captaining defenders, where does this come from? Are we just banking on the 6 points? Is it risky because they have the propensity to concede?
Yes, that's 2 simple answers. Yes, it's desperation. No. Dino breathing down my neck. But the good thing is Dino has screwed up as well. He captained Vardy, and Vardy is nowhere. So that's good.
Whoa, hold on. Jamie Vardy's still going to come good against Chelsea. He's coming good.
Look, I'm also hoping that Jamie Vardy scores in a losing effort. So that's what fantasy football does, is that it makes you bet against your team, or at the very least say, okay, fine, no clean sheet. We're going to go against you, Edouard Mendy, but go fantasy football.
But here's
Don't worry, guys. De Bruyne is going to pull strings. De Bruyne is pulling strings. I'm going back to the top of our log. Don't worry.
Who do you have at the top?
Last season. Keep quiet.
Okay, cool.
Spurs gonna Spurs.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, so which because it looks like the centre backs or the defenders seemingly are winning. So I see that obviously John Stones and Ruben Diaz are shoo-ins to come into to people's teams, differentials as well because people have been sleeping on City. Any other defenders where you're like, okay, look, there's a system that seemingly work? I saw over the past couple of weeks, the guys I've played on FPL have had Kieran Tierney, have had Hector Bellerin. Some guys have had Bernd Leno. Arsenal have had 7 clean sheets. Outside of obviously the Tyron Mings and the Martinez's of the world that have already been in people's sides. Are there any other defenders that you could put in and also captain? Because seemingly people are captaining defenders now, which is mind-boggling for me.
And not just defenders, centre backs.
Yeah. I wouldn't captain this person, but I think Tyreek Mitchell needs to come back into teams now. He's fit again. He's cheap again. So, spending. I spent 3.9 on him. I don't know what he is now. Let me find out. He's still on 3.9. There you go.
He's on my bench. He's on my bench and he's got 8 points. It's the most disgusting thing ever.
For 3.9, guys, that's a bargain.
It's a bargain.
Yeah.
It's a proper bargain. But then what about West Ham players? Because West Ham aren't necessarily conceding a heck of a lot of goals. So I had like Kufal as one of my players, and he's not bad at all. And when you look at what they're doing, if you're looking for defenders, I think the rule of thumb in fantasy football had been look for wing backs, Robertsons, Trents, the likes of Chilwell, those guys who will give you an assist potentially or even possibly score. Now the clean sheet has become de rigueur, and now we're like, okay, so who doesn't concede goals? And it just happens to be City. So, that will also change.
Can you have 2 City defenders in your side?
You definitely can. But yeah, I would go with a centre back and then a wing back. So I've seen a lot of people go Stones, Cancelo, or Diaz, Cancelo. But again, you have a look at that. Cancelo didn't start against whoever.
That's why I didn't play him.
That's exactly the problem. The only person that's going to play in that City team every week is De Bruyne. You don't know who he's going to choose.
And Edison.
Well,
okay, if you're going to go spend 6 million on a goalkeeper, then also you don't know what you're doing in FPL. But
got 6 points.
That's fine. But people don't have that money to spend. So my thing with defenders is I have 1 premium defender and the rest 4.5 wingbacks. And that's where I'm trying to get a little bit of money there now. So also looking at fixtures. So you have to look at guys that have got decent fixtures. So Villa's got a decent run. West Ham have got a decent run. And then I've got Stones in there with City's got a great run and they're not conceding. So those are the guys I'm playing now. And those are going to be my defenders for a while.
Okay. Another question that I had was around the replacement of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I struggled in the last game week to try and find a replacement for DCL. He's been in my team all the way through. I kind of rode the wave with him, hoping that if Everton was going to score, he was going to be the guy. Yep. Now I have a 7.8 sized hole in my team, currently being filled by Edson Cavani because I thought maybe with the two game weeks, Edson might get a full 90 minutes, which would give me some sort of points. I wasn't trusting Wilson or anybody else right at this point in time. Is there a striker that I can put in there that can work? Currently, my one option is go Wilson Antonio and take the extra cash and put it somewhere else in the team. What are you guys thinking?
I want to see what AB says, but I'll tell you what I say for now. What I've done now is with DCL going out, I've switched my whole formation from a 3-4-3 to a 3-5-2. So I've got rid of that extra striker. I've got the cheapest striker that I know will play sometimes, which is Brewster. At 4.5.
I did exactly the same.
Got the cheapest striker, and I've put premium. I've still got Kane. I've still got Bamford, and then you just load up that midfield with every single possible guy that you know will play. So you've got De Bruyne, you've got Fernandes, you've got De Bruyne. Who have I got actually? De Bruyne, Fernandes, Salah, sorry, and then I've got Grealish and Souček. So with that, you can really, all of those guys will play, will score. Like it's a no-brainer, and it's a thing that worked for me last season. 3-5-2, I think, is now the formation to go because there just isn't a striker that's good enough to fulfill that place. Antonio, a lot of guys went to Antonio, but again, he might start, may not start. Fitness is a big issue there. So that's what I've done. So
No, I agree with the strategies there.
Yeah, that midfield is fire. Woo! Hey, whoever's coming up against that one.
So if you're trying to find that replacement, I think for me, so I've luckily got 2 transfers coming up into game week 20, so I can afford to tinker a bit, get that 3-5-2 as Dean says. But I've got Callum Wilson in just because they're playing Leeds, so I'm sort of treating it on a game by game basis because Leeds love to
Sam
play one
Allardyce
sort of
will
way.
disappoint you. Sam Allardyce will disappoint you.
What's Sam Allardyce got to do with it?
what's Sam Allardyce going to do at Newcastle Leeds?
Wilson's got no supply whatsoever in that Newcastle team.
You mean Steve Bruce?
You mean Steve Bruce?
Oh, Steve Bruce.
Bruce is a poor man, Sam Allardyce, actually. So you're right.
But
sorry. I'm thinking West Brom right now. They all have stripes.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I'm looking at my team and I've got 3 City players. And I'm just thinking, who the hell do I support here? But I got quite lucky with Phil Foden. I just saw him play the other day, so I was like, you know what? I've been a big fan of Phil Foden, and I've put him in. Obviously, Pep decides to rotate.
Of course.
So let's see if Phil Foden plays. But my biggest thank is to Arteta for finally dropping Willian, because a guy like Smith Rowe is still 4.4, and he plays well. For how long, we'll see. But yeah, that's.
I am
just
so
sucks that I
afraid.
can't put an Arsenal player in my team.
I am so
Else I
afraid
would
to
put
bring
him in.
Emil Smith Rowe into the
Please
side.
do not. Please don't.
No, look. So what I've done is I brought in Bernd Leno as my second goalkeeper. Who was my first goalkeeper? I think it was McCarthy, and I kind of felt that he wasn't playing, so I was like, okay, let's bring Leno in. So I've got Arsenal in Martinez and Leno at the back, even though Martinez has left us, I still miss him. But the other question is, where do you rank these Arsenal youngsters? Do you bring them in? Yes, they value for money, but obviously in Dean's 3-5-2 system, they might just be sitting on the bench. Are they good enough from an FPL perspective to sit on the bench, and you just hope that if in case of an injury, Emil Smith Rowe's assists and goals from Saka seemingly work? Is that probably a better strategy but you've already got 5 midfielders, so it can't work if you've got a midfield that looks like yours. But is there value with ESR and Saka?
I'm assuming you're asking Dean.
Everybody. But you've also got 5 in the midfield, Cyrus. So
yeah, the thing for me was, I personally, I don't know what I'm going to get from an Arsenal team. I think they're in good form at the moment, and so the likes of a Saka you can pretty much count on in terms of playing relatively well. And so this past game week would have been the perfect time to have him in and around the squad. I actually had Kieran Tierney for a bit, but then that didn't work out because it's my fantasy football. What I have decided to do, though, so like for instance, the 3 at the back, I've generally gone wing backs. It's just the thing I do. So James Justin has been really good value for money. Ben Chilwell had started the season quite well, and I do think that if he's able to get up the pitch a little bit more, can actually contribute a bit to the Chelsea cause. And then Kufal is also another good one. But my midfield, I had Fernandes and Salah in there because I thought, okay, fine. Once their game against each other is done, they should score points in their fixtures outside of that. True, Liverpool have to play Spurs, but in essence, Salah's the kind of guy who could get a goal in that game. It's what happens with Fernandes. And and the Salah Spurs game is in the next game week. But that you asked about the strikers, and this is where things were weird, because I thought perhaps this is the time to put Ollie Watkins in, because he's sort of gone under the radar. He hasn't scored for a while, and I actually toyed with putting Mikel Antonio there because I thought, look, I think that West Ham are probably going to win, and he's going to be one of the guys that does well in that game. When he's fit, he will play. It is as simple as that. That's what Moyes does. but it's counting on his fitness as the problem. Now, to answer your question about the Arsenal players, which ones do you put in at the expense of any of the other players that you might pick in the entire fantasy football? Because if you're going to leave out the likes of Maddison, Grealish, Harvey Barnes, who are fairly well priced and are good performers, do you then say, okay, fine, I think that Emile Smith-Rowe might do something? It's always a gamble. So I tend to think that if you're going to look for any Arsenal players to put into that team, go with the guys who you know will play. And that's generally Aubameyang. He's way overpriced, but at least he scored 2 goals this week. And then one or two of the youngsters like Saka.
Final question on all of this. Aubameyang, how many goals does he need to score for you to bring him back in? I know Dean doesn't have Arsenal players, but if this is the start of something great, when do you jump onto the wave? Is it now, or do you wait for I don't know how many goals?
It's a fixture list thing, wouldn't it be that? I mean, I would assume that's what Dean and AB would say, is that if you look at the fixtures that Arsenal have going forward, it's good that he's gotten a couple of goals now. Those goals against Newcastle will do him a world of good. But if he's then up against really good teams in the next 5 or 6 games, maybe you don't. I mean, in essence, it's also who are you gauging him with? If you've got Jamie Vardy in your team, you might think, well, what's the difference between Vardy and Aubameyang? So you might take that gamble.
The thing with Aubameyang is, though, look at the goal he missed yesterday. You know, that open goal he should have scored. So again, he can score 2 goals on a night, but he's also going to miss, and he can miss. So do you really you can't have someone like that in your team?
Well, Jamie Vardy misses some too. So and
also, okay, I'm just saying because he's an Arsenal player. Don't put him in your team.
Okay, I know I don't want to go into the captaincy discussion because game week 20 is still a while away. But one last question on a differential. Give me one differential that you think is something people need to look at and to put in, and obviously why. So, AB, what's the one differential that you're considering?
Well, there's 2. No, actually 1. Yeah, screw the second one. Paul Pogba. I think last 3-4 games, Pogba's been very decent. Whether he plays on the wing or not, he's always good value in terms of what he's bringing to the table. Whether or not United strikers can finish from Pogba is another issue. But yeah, he's doing well. He's playing really well. So it's a big gamble though. But yeah, that's what a differential is Paul Pogba.
Paul Pogba playing down the right wing. Cyrus, what's the differential that you're looking at that you think could add a little bit more?
This is some hot head stuff here because in essence, the heart says, okay, there are Chelsea players that are definitely being left on the table here by a lot of people. And I do think Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic are invariably going to hit form at some point. Ziyech just coming off an injury, and he's got really great link-up play. So if you're looking for somebody who's at a fairly good cost and should be involved in any of the attacking stuff that happens at Chelsea, then he'd be the guy. And Christian Pulisic has got the capabilities to win games. So I do think that if you're looking for somebody who could actually give you some points, especially when you're looking at obviously the Leicester game's out of the question, but Chelsea play Wolves at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea play Burnley, and then obviously the Spurs after that. So those are the kinds of players I think who, if you're looking for somebody, and I think people are overlooking Chelsea because of the bad patch, but the win against Fulham could also be a catalyst. So let's see.
Dean, your differential?
So mine's Gundogan from City at he's 5.5, right? So if you're playing that 3-5-2 system that I'm playing, you're looking for a semi-cheap 5th midfielder. And the guy's getting game time. So Pep rotation, again, doesn't look like too much of a big issue there. He's played 90 minutes of the last 4 or 5 games, and the guy's got decent results from it. So if you're playing that result, I'd look at him, especially with City's striker problems. He's going to load up that midfield. So De Bruyne, Gundogan, all of those kind of guys are looking well. And at 5.5, it's very rare. You can't really get someone that's better for cheaper. So here's my call.
Look, as a 5th midfielder, I think from my differential, I'd always consider Bukayo Saka. I think he's with him now no longer having the defensive responsibilities. I think he's also one of the guys who will always start for Arsenal. Obviously, the run of games can be a little bit tough, but him and Emil Smith Rowe are the creative fulcrum that Arteta is relying on to save his ass and save his season. Those are two. But for me, I'm looking at West Ham, Jared Bowen. 6.3, slightly a little bit too expensive, but if you can figure out a way to spread the wealth across your midfield, he's a very intriguing prospect. If you're tired of everyone having Souček, get Jared Bowen. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but he does assist a lot, and he gets in there, and especially with Antonio back, I think you might find a lot of goals coming out of West Ham. But yeah, so that's how I'm looking at it. And if you look at West Ham's fixtures, they've got obviously West Brom in this game week, but the next game week is Crystal Palace, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Fulham coming up next, rounding off with Sheffield. So before they get Spurs and West Ham, so you've got 5 game weeks that West Ham could cause problems. And if you tell me Liverpool, quite frankly, the way Liverpool are playing, West Ham are ripe to pick them up if you see it that way. So that's how I'm seeing it, and I think that's essentially how we're gonna end the show today, guys. Any final words? Any more daggers that I need to expect?
Spurs gonna Spurs.
Chelsea gonna Chelsea as well. Don't worry.
So win the league then.
Okay, I'm not gonna. We can spend another hour, Cyrus. We can spend an hour.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. And please do remember, if you're watching us, please do follow us on the various platforms of Cheap Seats, or not Cheap Seats, One World Sports Radio, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, our Twitter handles are there if you want to DM us and tell us that you don't like us or you think our takes aren't that great, but please don't slide into our DMs. That's just weird. But for myself, Dean, Cyrus, and AB, le sale kakagiso.